And welcome back to At Issue. When I say back, I mean last week we had a discussion with 3 retirees, or soon to be retirees, let me point out one of them isn't retired yet, on their background. This time we're going to be talking with 3 leaders in Central Illinois on the challenges and the changes in their industries. And let me welcome back to the table Doug Oberhelman, who recently was CEO and chair of Caterpillar, retired from the chair position on March 31st. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you.
Kevin Schoeplein is here. Kevin is still the CEO at OSF, but you retire this December.
By the end of this year.
You're anxious.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And also with us is Doug Stewart. Doug retired June 30th from his regional president position at PNC Bank. And just real quickly before we go into the challenges and changes, PNC Bank, everyone was in their same company your entire career. You were too, except that the name changed.
Well, yes, while I never left 301 Southwest Adams over 44 years, actually I never left the 3rd or 4th floor. I did work for 4 banks, Commercial National Bank, First of America National City, and retired from PNC. And
those were all acquisitions?
Yes.
So let's talk about acquisitions as the first challenge, and we might as well continue with banking.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges did you face when First of America, then all of a sudden it was National City and then PNC?
Well, some of it had to do with the circumstances, and I know we'll probably talk more about the Great Recession in 2008 and how that impacted us, but the fact of the matter is that mergers or acquisitions that occurred then occurred because of the economy, because of financial stress. Others occurred because of the fact that the shareholders saw that it was a good thing to do in terms of the price that you were being offered for the institution that you work for at the time. But regardless of what the reason is, what you had to have or really needed was leaders who understood, if you will, change management and how to take a look at not only where you were at the time that the situation occurred, but what were the expectations moving forward, and then how did you work with your leadership, or depending upon where you were in the organization, how did you make sure that you understood the direction that you needed to go going forward and excel in that environment, not just try to work in that environment and hope that good things happen.
And you've had, most recently, acquisition of 2 hospitals in Urbana and in Danville, from the Presence system.
Right.
How did OSF, during your career, how did you approach these acquisitions, and what challenges did that present?
Well, when our sisters first came to Peoria 145 years ago, they started in Peoria, but they quickly were asked to serve other communities. Rockford, Bloomington, up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and many times as we've helped serve those communities, we've been asked by other communities to help meet the healthcare needs for those particular geographies. Over the most recent periods, it's difficult for all healthcare systems and hospitals to be able to struggle and succeed and be sustainable long-term in an evolving healthcare delivery and changing ways of caring for patients. And so we've been approached over the years by communities, most recently before the one from Presence, from Urbana and Danville, but also in Streator. And so that healthcare system found it difficult to continue to operate a hospital there, but they wanted somebody to come in and help transition healthcare to a more contemporary and futuristic way of delivering care differently in that community. So we've been involved in that way too.
Did all of the acquisitions turn out positive, the way you hoped? And I understand it's driven by patient health care, but
right.
Did it work the way that you had hoped to the benefit of the OSF healthcare system?
In each case, they've met our original expectations, and most importantly, we met the community's expectations in each of those. So we've gotten better, and at the same time, we believe that those communities and those involved in healthcare believe that healthcare got better in those communities.
I'll be interested in your response to a similar question, because Caterpillar for years has acquired companies. You've divested of some. Some of those were really good acquisitions. Progress Rail, probably a good acquisition from my perspective. Bucyrus, maybe at the timing might have been wrong for Bucyrus up in Milwaukee. Can you reflect on some of those?
Sure, and we've had a history of acquisition and growth through acquisition for decades, all the way back to Barber Green when we got into the paving business, which really changed our offering to customers by offering asphalt paving, which we hadn't done before at that time. Small engine business in Perkins in the 90s, which brought a complete line of small engines that we now use in all of our equipment and sell most of it outside to third parties. Bucyrus, the timing turned out to be really poor. We thought it was a great thing at the time, and over time it will be, because we offer a full line of mining products to our customers. Electromotive Diesel, which is a tremendous locomotive company, was a great one and will be a super one down the road. It's just us and GE and the locomotive business really in heavy freight around the world today. And that one's going great guns. You mentioned Progress Rail, which really started out as a remanufacturing opportunity because it was recycling of old, beat up, used railroad cars. And we added that to our reman business, and it's turned out to be a fabulous one. So I think with acquisitions, in our case, and probably many cases, but you've got to look at them longer term. We buy nothing that is going to work out in a 2 or 3 year period. It's got to go through a cycle or two. We've got to make sure we get to our customer base, tell them what we do. We've got to integrate that acquisition into what we're doing. You mentioned divestitures. We've had some, in fact, back in late 09, 010, we decided there were several things that weren't our core business. The logistics business, which sprang out of the Morton distribution facility, competing with FedEx and Deutsche Post and DHL and all the big international companies. We just couldn't compete because it was going to take a lot of capital on that level. And we thought capital was better employed in the things we knew what to do. We've owned dealerships around the world off and on, and we just have one left today in Japan, but we've sold all of that off because that's not what we do. We want independent owners to manage our dealership. So you have to really look at each one on its merits and on its own. We use a 10-year cycle typically when we look at one, and try to work in a downturn in the meantime. None of us saw the 95% reduction in the mining business. We baked in a 40% reduction, which usually is pretty traumatic. Nobody in the world forecasts a 95% drop in the mining business. Now it's coming back nicely, and at some point somebody's going to say, boy, that was really a good deal. I remember so well the Solar Turbine purchase back in the early 80s out in San Diego. We bought it from International Harvester. Highly controversial. Caterpillar overpaid. What a stupid decision. And today, nobody would ever say anything poorly about Solar Turbines because it's been such a winner, but it's taken a long time to get there.
What about you, Doug? I mean, we already talked about acquisitions and mergers and things of that nature, but in terms of the banking industry, what kind of changes have you seen that have been not healthy for the banking industry? I mean, is that government regulation or?
This might take a couple hours.
Yeah.
You two are excused.
Yeah, right. No, and I would say overall regulation certainly is one that has its place, and I don't want anyone who would be watching the show not to think that we don't need a strong and healthy banking system that is very well capitalized. In 2008-9, the Great Recession would certainly tell you that. But if you want to focus on regulation for just a moment, which is an overarching, maybe I ought to go back to 1973 for a moment when I joined the bank. There was no branch banking in Illinois. There was no such thing as an ATM. You had this industry called savings and loans, which were there to make home loans, if you will. There were brokerage firms, the Merrill Lynches of the world, and there were banks, and we were told how much we could pay on savings accounts. We had interest rates regulated. I mean, we were a utility in many respects. And we went from that to a situation that allowed banks and other counterparts to do a lot more in the financial service industry, which in general I think is good. But with that, came not only a lot of regulation, but a lot of regulators. And that's probably as much an issue with regulation of financial institutions as anything else. I mean, you're dealing with the FDIC, the Comptroller of the Currency, the SEC, the Consumer Protection Agency, and I could go on and on and on. And you know, they each have their own view of the world. They each have their jobs to do. And so while there is, I believe, unnecessary regulation and probably harsher on smaller banks than larger banks sometime, the real issue is you need accountability to lesser regulators, and everybody knows the rules that they're playing by. It's like any of us can deal with change or can deal with situations as long as we understand what the situation is, and there aren't a lot of things that are out there at cross purposes. So from my perspective, it is the amount of regulation, but even worse probably the number of regulators that you're dealing with.
And for you in the healthcare industry, we of course have heard all the discussion in Washington, D.C. about the Affordable Care Act and replace, repeal, whatever. How difficult is it to adhere to all the regulations? And I would assume they are ever changing.
Right. You're correct. There's a continuing, and it's a continuing conversation about healthcare. I mean, healthcare represents typically 35–38% both the federal and state budgets. So it's a significant portion of the healthcare spend. As individuals are growing older in age, the life expectancy is 10 years greater than it was back in the 70s. We're adding 13,000 enrollees to Medicare each and every day. And at the same time, we had 50 million of individuals that did not have coverage in healthcare. And so the ongoing discussion around healthcare is really about three basic questions in my mind. How do you provide adequate access or coverage to healthcare? Who's going to pay for it? And what's the role of government? Okay, those are really the three core questions that we are, as a country, as a state, deliberating on. And you know, hopefully we're going to get it right. But as you look at that, over the years, both in Medicare and Medicaid, and one out of every 4 people in this country are on Medicaid. These are public programs, and so by its natural attribution, there's regulations associated with that. And at the same time, we have significant and rightfully appropriate regulation relative to safety and quality and clinical issues, both in any segment of healthcare delivery, and we should to be able to have oversight about that. At the same time, introducing new technologies, FDA and so forth, pharma. Yes, it is correct. We have a lot of regulation. As Doug indicated, regulation is helpful, beneficial, but sometimes some of that regulation really doesn't get a look back and take a look at it and say, you know, is this really doing what was originally intended when that regulation was introduced?
Let me turn to Doug and talk about regulation, but before we do that, I want to point out that he said reman in his last answer, and I want to point out that that stands for remanufacturing, where they take an engine. CAT engines are built to have a second life, and down in Corinth, Mississippi and other locations, they remanufacture the engine to use it again for a second life. But let's talk about regulation. EPA would be a good start.
Well, I'd look at this a little bit differently, and people think, I think society in general think, business and CEOs think we don't need any regulation or any government. And all you have to do is look at 2 examples, Venezuela and Syria, to see the extreme case of no government. That couldn't be further from the case of any CEO. What the problem is becomes, what's the balance? What protects us? What helps us? What makes us competitive in regulations versus what overwhelms us? And I'm going to say the last 15 years under both parties' administrations, the regulation onslaught has been unbelievable. And that's not helping us be competitive either locally or in the world. And that's where the balance is. Take diesel engines, EPA, a great example. In our case, the diesel engine, which is a 150-year-old invention, Rudolf Diesel, 1860s or something at that time, would never recognize it today. But because of a series of industry and EPA negotiated regulations, and this is important because the industry sat with the EPA, and I was in many of those meetings back in the 90s, and said, yes, we can deliver this on this date with this technology. Today, the diesel engine is cleaner, as clean as a gasoline engine. In most big cities, the exhaust coming out of a diesel engine is cleaner than the air going in. So in many cases, regulation, if the balance is there and they are thoughtful, will help us all. And we absolutely must have them. The problem is when it makes us uncompetitive. And in both healthcare, banking, and to some degree in my industry, we are uncompetitive because of this. So the balance has gone too far one way or the other. And that's really what I think we're all pleading for. Bring the balance back. We all need and must have regulations that help us, that protect us, that make us competitive. But beyond that, it hurts us.
Let me turn the conversation to, in your careers, successes and regrets. If we could go around the table and talk about, let's talk about successes. The biggest success for you at Caterpillar in your career?
Well, for me personally, without question, was the day I got the call that I was going to be CEO and chairman of Caterpillar. And that was in October of 2009. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. The phone rang, and luckily I was up. And it was one of those things you'll never forget. Word for word, the exact time, how much coffee was gone from my cup, the whole works. So personally, that was a tremendous honor to be able to lead one of the truly great companies that's been around over 90 years. And without question, I would say some failures, lots of them. And I'm not sure they're failures as much as they are things I wish would have gone better. Caterpillar plays in several very cyclical industries. And when the industries are responding and growing, you've got to serve them. And when they're not, you've got to adjust. And the fact that we had to reduce employment several different times in my career, I've been through about 6, arguably 9 big recessions around the world, where you have to let people go, is painful, and particularly from the period of 2014, 15, and 16. That's really tough.
When you made the announcement that 10,000 people would be laid off over an 18-month period, what's going through your gut?
Well,
you're losing a lot of talent.
Well, we're losing a lot of talent, and the way I explained it to people is you can't think about it as 10,000 people. You think about it as 10,000 dining room tables with families sitting around them, spouses, children, and they all have a traumatic impact the minute they get that news. So that was what drove me, on one hand, to make sure we absolutely must do this for the survival of the company. And we've done this in Caterpillar for many, many decades. We haven't lost money since the early 90s. And that's because of regimes we put in place to handle costs, but it's painful. People think, oh, Oberhelman, he just loves to lay off people and cut costs. That's the worst part of the job. Particularly if you think about an employee and his or her dining room table at night, that night, and the impact on that family. On the other side of that, when the clouds part and the sun comes out, as it is now for Caterpillar, we're seeing employment growth, we're seeing the share price go up, we're seeing the markets respond. This is why we do this. This is why a company survives 90 years. I can tell you, Alice Chalmers, International Harvester, on and on and on of competitors of ours over the years that didn't make it. And that's not what we're going to do. And the biggest obligation I felt when I was named chairman and CEO was that at that time, 85-year history. I cannot do anything that jeopardizes the next 85 years at that time. I've got to reduce costs. I've got to invest. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And that's a big obligation.
You're shaking your head in the positive form as he talks about some of these things. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about success and failure in your position at the bank.
Well, I think at that point in time when you are named the leader, it's something you don't forget. You then go through the process of saying, okay, what am I going to do? But from my perspective, I wasn't a specialist within the banking industry. I was very much of a generalist in terms of the different areas of the bank and so on that I led. But I saw that as a real positive for me to be able to lead through change because I had worked in so many different parts of the bank, and we had a lot of long-term employees, just like both of these organizations. So I would say generally the success was that I was able to transition people and culture from one entity to another, because I was president for just over 20 years, and from First of America to National City and finally to PNC. On the other hand, it wasn't always my choice about who was going to get laid off. I was just the one who had to carry that task out. And so if you want to talk about rough parts of what you have to do, it's telling people that they no longer have a job. But at the same time, we were a small enough organization in terms of the territory that I managed that you could really do everything you possibly could to get involved to help those people find something moving forward. And so that was, I guess that kind of wraps through all of those questions you ask. I will tell you in terms of personally probably the most difficult time in my life was the fourth quarter of 2008 because I sat there and I saw National City Bank price go from 42 to ultimately $2. Lost a lot of personal net worth, but certainly beyond that, there were a lot of other things going on, and wondering, what organization was I going to be a part of going forward, and what was I going to do to hopefully transition our people to that new organization. I also happened to find out I had colon cancer, and my mother, who was 88 years old, broke her hip and ended up in a nursing home. This was all going on at one time in my life.
The health issue, probably the most important issue. You can't pay attention to the job unless you're healthy. Yeah. And so, did you provide care to him? No, I'm kidding you.
They did, as a matter of fact.
He's provided care to all of us.
That's right. But if I
fortunately, not me individually.
But if I could just give 30 more seconds on that, was to say that, okay, 9 years later, I retire, and PNC was a great thing for us. I am cancer-free, and my mother's now 96, so everything is good in that regard.
And in the closing couple of minutes here, success and regret.
I echo what both Doug said. The day that the sisters asked, would I help succeed Jim Moore in the role as CEO at OSF Healthcare? I mean, the enormity of what that means and implications even today it continues to settle in. And then what's different and the opportunity is I find it important to get out of my office and get to the bedside, caring for, getting close to where our patients receive their care. It connects the business decisions, economic decisions, reality to caring for the patients. I don't have any personal regrets. Probably the other second thing that I may have any regrets about my career, other than I wish I was 40 years old, because I think we have an opportunity presented to help transform healthcare, get healthcare right, get it sustainable. And the other thing that I would say that probably gives me the greatest gratitude is like example yesterday when we announced the President's Healthcare. Communities have come to us, and healthcare providers come to us and asked OSF to take care of their communities. So.
And I might point out when he said the acquisition of Presence Hospital Systems in Urbana and Danville yesterday, well, this was taped the day after that acquisition, but we are airing this several weeks after that acquisition. And let me say, I wish we could continue this conversation. As a matter of fact, let's continue the conversation next week. We'll have all three gentlemen back to join us again. Doug Oberhelman of Caterpillar, retired now. Doug Stewart of PNC Bank, retired now. And to Kevin Schoeplein of OSF Healthcare, not quite retired yet. We'll be back with more discussion with retirees next time when you join us on At Issue. Thank you for being with us.